This is J. Krishna Murti's second public talk in Sion, 1969.
May we go on with what we were talking about the other day when we met here. We were saying how important it is that there should be a relationship between man and man in which human beings can live peacefully with great abundance of love. And we said that as most human beings are in constant battle with themselves, their life a battlefield, not only within themselves, but also outwardly, as in wars, the division of nationalities, religious separatism, and also inwardly, the division, the contradiction, the aggressiveness, the violence. All this prohibits right relationship. And our problem is whether it is at all possible to be free of this conflict so that we can live in freedom, in peace, having great understanding and naturally great affection and love. Is that possible? It is only possible, not theoretically, but actually, if there is freedom. Freedom has been translated by the younger generation as doing what one likes. Sexual freedom and various forms of self-assertive, self-centered pursuit of what one calls freedom. And the older generation want freedom only in a very, very small, limited area. They are highly respectable, following the tradition, accepting things as they are, socially, morally, and inwardly, tolerating, accepting. And their freedom is also very limited. So to live not theoretically, not as an idea, but actually in daily life, one has to find out for oneself what is freedom. For it seems to me that is one of the most important questions that one must answer for oneself, not depending on some prejudice or some ideal or what you want freedom to be according to your conditioning, according to your pleasure, or having had so much pain, sorrow, anxiety. And to those, freedom means to rid of all this anxiety, sorrow, fear, pain. And is freedom something that the mind can invent as an idea and pursue steadfastly? That idea. Is freedom an idea, a theory, a concept? Or freedom has nothing whatsoever to do with concepts, with ideals, either based on pleasure or the acceptance of fear and establishing the opposite of that fear. Because if the mind is not free, one cannot possibly have right relationship with another. If I am afraid inwardly, psychologically, how can I have right relationship with you or with my wife, children, whatever, or my neighbor? How can there be right relationship if there is any sense of competition between you and me? How can there be right relationship with human beings if there is any form of ambition which breeds aggressiveness? So to bring about in ourselves and in the world, there must be a complete and total change psychologically, inwardly. And to understand the implication of this change, as we were saying the other day, one must naturally understand what the real freedom is. Obviously, no one can tell us what freedom is. Neither the church, nor the politician, nor the teacher, or the guru, and especially the speaker. He cannot possibly tell you what freedom is. He can only describe it verbally. But what is described is not the real thing. The description is not the described. And one has to find out for oneself what it is. Otherwise we cannot live at peace with one another. There cannot be unity between human beings. Because as it is, human beings are divided into nationalities, religious groups, personal inclinations, characteristic differences, experiences, pursuits, searches, and so on. There is division in ourselves, which has created the fragmentation of the world. This again is fairly obvious when you observe. So, our question is, how can we live at peace with one another? Not intellectually, not theorize about it, not accept any theological concept of it or philosophical speculation about it, but as one is in constant struggle, constant battle within oneself, unless one finds this out, actually not in a supposed state, but actually in our daily living, every moment of the day find out what it means to live in freedom. As we said, the younger generation is trying to find what freedom is, and therefore revolting against the established order, established morality, established economic condition, revolting against war, against the established universities and so on and on and on, right through the world. Is this revolt freedom? I was told that Socrates complained against the younger generation of his day, that they were revolting. They didn't respect the older generation. They didn't obey. They were following their own ideas of morality and so on. That was probably about 2,000 years and more ago. Every generation complains of the younger generation. This has been going on right through the ages. And perhaps, I don't say it is, perhaps the modern generation may be slightly different, younger generation. They may be in revolt, trying to find out how to live rightly, search out a way of true relationship between man and man. And in that they do great many crazy things, taking drugs, free sexual relationship, hippies, all the rest of it. And the older generation looks on tolerantly or in opposition to what is going on, encouraging them or discouraging them. But through all this, as one observes, both in Asia, even among the communist countries, in Europe, in America, one sees this revolt, the non-acceptance of what is, always trying to find out a better way of living. And this division between the old and the young is most unfortunate, because we're all human beings trying to live together, trying to find out if we are at all serious, search out a right way of living. And as we said the other day when we met here, the purpose and the intention of these talks here is to find out how to live in freedom and yet with peace, with clarity, without confusion, sorrow, and having a heart that is full, not filled by the mind. And that's what we are going to do if we can do this. So the first thing to find out is, for ourselves, for each one of our souls, what is freedom? And it requires great inward clarity to find out, great discipline. I don't mean by discipline conformity or obedience to a pattern or accepting the standard morality and following it. We mean by discipline, the word itself means to learn, not to follow anybody. Doesn't mean the acceptance of any authority, but to learn. And to learn, one must have naturally easy acceptance of a mind that is earnest, serious, and an earnest mind, a mind that is intense, is in itself discipline. So we are going to learn together what is freedom. Not your concept of it or my concept, or what the religious leaders say or don't say. If you have a concept or a formula of what freedom is, then you are not learning about freedom. If I have already made up my mind what freedom should be, then I cannot examine what true freedom is, because my desire to be free may have the motive of escape from this or that, or I want greater pleasure. So if I have any motivation at all, and this is very important to understand, if I have any motive, pleasurable, personal, or environmental influence which pushes me towards freedom, or I am caught in a trap of society, trap in which I have built for myself. If I want to escape from it and call that escape freedom, then I cannot possibly learn what freedom is. So let us be very clear that when we are learning about freedom, we are not learning about your concept about freedom, or my concept, or the concept of someone else. To learn implies no authority. The authority of your own principle, your own idea, or the speakers. Right? Is that very clear? Otherwise, your mind is not fresh to learn. Your mind then is not eager, new, to explore, to find out. Philosophers right through the world, both religious and the non-religious philosopher, have described in so many ways what freedom is, according to their conditioning, according to their pleasure, according to their intellectual capacities, and so on and on and on. To find out for ourselves what freedom is, one has to completely and totally reject all that. And in the very rejection of it, you are beginning to find out what freedom is. You are rejecting it not because you don't like Kant or prefer somebody else. You are rejecting it because you understand that you have to find out for yourself and not according to somebody else. Therefore, you have to apply all your energy to find out. And therefore, you have to be aware of your motives, of your intentions, whether you call freedom an escape, or because you are in pain or in anxiety, and you say, if I could only get rid of it, I'll be free. Or because you have no money, and you feel the society is rotten, therefore you want freedom. So freedom is not out there, but to find out what it is, what it means to you, and whether you are being very honest with yourself. And to learn means to observe. Not only observe what is taking place in the world, outwardly, out there, but also to observe inwardly your thought, your motives, why you want freedom. You understand? A small mind, a petty little mind, an emotional little mind wants freedom. Its freedom is equally petty, small, emotional, toddy. Therefore, one has to learn what freedom is. So, to find out what it is for yourself, you have to reject all authority, and your own authority too. And to reject all authority, you have to understand it, not revolt against it. To understand what are the implications of authority, to study it, to inquire into it, to explore it, to go to the very root of authority. Why human beings accept authority. We'll wait for the train. I wonder if you have ever asked why you accept authority. The authority of the state, the law, the policeman, the lawyer, and all the rest of it. The authority of the priest, the authority of the intellectual idealist, the authority of tradition, and if you have rejected it, why have you rejected it? And have you your own authority, which is your own feeling that you know. Again, to find out what authority means, not the superficial authority only, but the deep acceptance of human beings who obey, follow, have heroes, principles, ideals, the experiences which has become knowledge and which become the authority. Now if you question yourself why you accept authority, we're not rejecting authority. We're not saying authority is right or wrong, good or bad. We're trying to learn about authority. And therefore when you learn, you are free of it. Now why? Why do you follow? Now, why are you listening to the speaker so quietly? Why? Have you set the speaker as an authority and therefore hoping to get something out of that? Or are you listening to find out what is truth and what is falsehood? The speaker may be telling falsehood, or he may not be conveying what is true. But if you accept him as authority, you have ceased to learn. So what is important is not what the speaker says or doesn't say, but how you listen to him, whether you are actually learning. We are inquiring into freedom, what it means, and to live it daily, not as an idea, live a different kind of life, and there is a contradiction between the idea and the actuality. We are trying to find out what it means to be free in this world, so that we can live happily, peacefully, with great ecstasy and all the rest of it. So you have to find out for yourself what are the implications of authority, the origin of authority. Surely, one of the major reasons of accepting, we are not talking of the outer authority, the law, but we are talking about authority, the acceptance of inward authority. Most of us accept this inward authority because we want to be secure, certain. We don't want to go wrong. We want to be always sure, because we think having a pattern of surety, certainty, then we shall have no conflict whatsoever. If I accept you as my inward authority, personal or impersonal, or the ideal which you have set out, and if I follow that, I'm quite sure I shan't go wrong. Because I've invested you with certain authority. Because I'm uncertain, I'm frightened. Because I'm frightened, I give you the authority. If I am not frightened, there's no problem at all. And also, one accepts authority because one wants to understand or gain a certain state of enlightenment, a certain state of understanding, called God, truth, whatever that is. Because one realizes what one's life is: ugly, miserable, contentious, emotional, confused, agony. And to escape from that, say, you know better than I do. Tell me how to get out of this misery. And to escape, I invest you with the authority, because I'm frightened, I don't know what to do. And also, I accept the authority of the past as tradition, because that's a very safe guide. And that tradition, whether it be old or modern, established by this society as moral, or I myself establish that authority of morality for myself. Any established order of morality is immoral, right? Do you accept that? Because then I'm merely following, accepting, conforming. And surely that is not morality. Morality means living, finding out, inquiring, to be without fear, to inquire. And where there is no fear, one is profoundly moral. So, when you begin to understand the nature and the structure of authority, when you learn about it, not reject it or revolt against it, but actually in daily life, which is in daily relationship, because life is relationship. Life is a movement in relationship. Life is the constant process of learning. In that, one discovers all the tricks of authority. And the mind has learned what it means, what authority means, not verbally, not intellectually, but deeply in one's heart and mind understands it. Then there is a quality of freedom. And the mind has become extraordinarily sensitive. It doesn't blame or accept the responsibility of another. The responsibility of living, understanding, learning is your own. So, is it possible to live like that? Is it possible to live a daily life? Life being a relationship, whether sitting in a bus looking at the conductor, or at home with your wife and children, or with whatever you have, there to see the whole implication of authority. How whether your wife dominates you, or you dominate the wife, because you want pleasure, you want comfort, you want security. Therefore follow, obey, put up with the nagging. So you submit to the authority. And to find out in daily life, do you understand what I mean by daily life? Every moment of living. Learn what the beauty of freedom is. Because without that, there will be no peace in the world, either in your heart or in the environment in which you live. And one must have peace, not from wars. That's a politician's peace, which is no peace at all, but to have peace within oneself, which means no conflict. And is this possible to live this kind of life in every day and every minute? Which means one must understand the nature and the source of conflict. Now we are going to learn together what conflict is. Again, not your idea of what conflict is, or mine, but to observe it. As you observe a map, as you observe a tree, to look at it, to learn all about it. What do you think is the source of conflict? Don't theorize. To find out what is the source, the beginning of conflict in your life. Not according to some philosopher or psychologist or some religious leader, the Pope or the priest or the bishop. You can brush aside all that childish stuff. But to find out for yourself what is the origin of this human conflict, which exists within and therefore exists without. The two are not separate. You can't say if the world was economically, socially, was made peaceful, then I'll have peace inwardly. Peace. The inward order, the inward morality, which has nothing to do with social morality. When there is disorder within, there is disorder without. So we have to find out for ourselves, that is to learn what is the beginning of this conflict in man. We know there is conflict, there is no question about it. Anybody who says, oh, there is no conflict, either he is neurotic or he is blind to what is going on within and without, or he doesn't want to look at it at all. He lives on a superficial life. life of entertainment, whether entertained by the church, by politics, or by football. They're all the same. We are talking of a man who is serious, who is deeply concerned, who is profoundly involved. What is the origin to such a man of this, all this battle that's going on within the misery, the confusion, the agony, the despair, the hope? What is the beginning of it? Don't invent a reason. Find out. Now, and you depend on another to tell you what the origin of it is. Depend on another to tell you what the beginning of all this misery is. Do you have faith in anybody? And if you have faith in somebody, why have you faith? Which doesn't mean you become cynical, bitter. Why do you look to somebody to tell you what the origin of this conflict is? Can't you find out for yourself? Are you waiting for me to tell you? So, please find out. There are several things involved in this. We are asking, please, do be serious and find out. We are asking, what is the beginning, the origin of this extraordinary misery, the pain, the tremendous sense of anxiety and fear, the beginning of it? And if you are waiting to be told the beginning of it, then it will not be your own discovery. And it's very important to find out for yourself, because you are the total structure of man. You are not an individual living in a potty little country like Switzerland or France. You are the whole of mankind, both historically and actually. Because what you are here, the same man is in India, in China, in America, groping, searching, longing, in despair, in tears. So if you can understand this, what is the beginning of pain, the anxiety, ordinary sorrow in which one lives, if you as a human being, not a local entity, which is the individual, but the human being, if that human being understands, then he'll have brought light to another human being. He'll help. I don't like to use the word help on all the rest of that. Then he will be in a state of clarity. What do you think it is? I really have not asked this question. What is the beginning of this sorrow that man lives in? And as so, madam, we'll ask that question presently. Let me talk a little while, I'm sorry. Give me 2 or 3 minutes, and then you can ask questions afterwards. You understand, to find this out is meditation. Find out why, as a human being, one lives in sorrow, knowing that nobody is going to answer you, nobody is going to tell you. And to find out, you must have tremendous energy, you must have intensity and the urgency to find out. This is not a bourgeois question, whether you live in the communist world or in the capitalist world. You have to answer this question. Now, having asked the question, how are you going to find out? How are you going to find out for yourself what is the origin, the beginning of sorrow? Not how to end it. That comes later. When you learn all about it, it's ended. Now, how do you find out? The mind, it will go slowly, step by step. Please follow it. With your mind, that is the mind that has already concluded, that has certain memories, certain formulas of what other people have said or what you have said, which is generally the intellectual inquiry. You understand? Are you going to use the intellect to find out? Right? You understand? See the difficulty first. If you are asking the question intellectually, then you are asking a question which is already broken up, which is already fragmented. If you answer it by the intellect, right? This is a very profound question, real, total question, a question that demands all your attention, all your being, energy. And if you say, I'll answer it through the intellect, or inquire through the intellect, and the intellect is a fragment of the whole, a fragment. And if you inquire through the fragment to find out the nature of the totality of sorrow, then you have gone far beyond. You will never find out that way. Right? Is that clear? Intellect being thought, memory, introspection, analysis, implication, all that implies time. Right? Are you going to take time, verbal, non-verbal, thought, memory, to examine this question? Patience. Please, go step by step. Don't get impatient with it. If it is not the intellect, then what have you with which to inquire, with which to look? For most of us, intellect has become extraordinarily important. We have cultivated that instrument at the expense of any other instruments. We adore, worship thought, the intellect, the reason, the capacity to analyze, dissect. You follow? And we think we'll understand it. Do you understand the flower by tearing it apart? Or do you understand it? Do you look at it when there is no division between the intellect and the eye and the heart? No division. So that when you look at that flower, you look at it completely with your whole being, not with the intellect alone. So can you look at try to find out, explore, learn the origin of sorrow? And this is a very important question to find out. Because in that one question, in that one problem, all other problems are included. All problems. Economic, social, heaven, hell, every problem is involved in that one marvelous, most profound question. So you have to find out and learn if there is another instrument which can look without time, without analysis. You understand? Analysis. Have I time to go on with this? It's nearly 11:30. Do I go on with this? Yes. One wants to find out or learn about the origin of sorrow, both the surface and the deep sorrow. So far, man has always used the intellect as a means of understanding, which is to analyze, to introspect, to examine. Now, to analyze implies time, right? Taking many days, many years, and at the end of it, you may be dead or you may be uncertain. That's a fact. And also to analyze very clearly, the analyzer must be without any shadow of prejudice, right? Otherwise, your analysis has no meaning. If the analyzer concludes from his analysis, and with that conclusion, he examines the next, is already approaching that next problem with a conclusion which he may be prejudiced, right? Are you following all this? I said, the speaker said, the whole question of analysis implies time. And the analyzer is the intellect who has learned from experience how to look, how to analyze. And that analysis is based on previous memories, previous conclusions, a design which he has drawn for himself. So he is not in a position to examine, is always examining with a contaminated mind, right? And all that takes time, right? And if you take time, you say you'll take a year, and during that interval, you're storing up more misery, more confusion, more sorrow. You're not free of sorrow. You haven't learnt about sorrow. So one has to find out how to look without analysis, without time, without the tradition of knowledge. That's quite a problem, isn't it? Can you do it? That is to look completely, totally, without any distortion. Distortion being time, distortion being tradition, knowledge, memory. You try sometime to look at a cloud, the tree, the running waters, or your wife or your husband, without any distortion, without any image. Try it. Then you will find out that there is a different quality of looking, which has nothing whatsoever to do with analysis. Then you look with complete whole mind and body and heart. Then you will find out the origin, the beginning of sorrow. We'll go on. Is it on Tuesday? Going into this matter again. Somebody, would you like to ask questions of what we have talked about? Please ask questions if you want to, concerning what we have discussed, not what I think of so and so. If you have no questions to ask, let's not sit. It's too hot in here. It is right to ask questions. One must ask questions. Because, just a minute, sir. Because in asking questions of ourselves, we are exposing ourselves to ourselves. And you may not want to do that in public, because we're rather vague. I don't want to show my stupidity. So I let somebody else ask the question. And to ask the right question is extraordinarily difficult. Because to ask the right question, I must have gone into this very profoundly. When I ask the right question, you have answered it yourself. That is the beauty of asking a question. So that you expose your own mind and heart to yourself. And generally one is frightened to expose oneself to oneself. And if you are frightened, don't ask the question. Is that enough for today? I think so, don't you?